Yeah, don't be obnoxiously vulnerable about every little thing. Look, I love the fact that we live in a world where people feel open about stuff. I'm not saying I've never been open or vulnerable to an extent, but ironically, there becomes like a narcissistic feeling. I was listening to a podcast I listened to, Armchair Expert, and I was listening to an interview where he interviewed a comedian named Nikki Glazer. I don't listen to her stuff or anything like that. She seems appeasable. She seems like she's funny and nice and all that stuff. But it was like every time they would talk about something and it would just be lighthearted, it would somehow turn into, because my insecurity and anxiety and, oh, it's because I don't feel I'm worthy and it comes from this and like feeling like I'm too insecure to hear like any criticism. And it's like, okay, we got it. And I'm not saying this to shame her, right? But here's where I put that everything, it seems to these people that want to be open about their life and how they view themselves really and everything that drives them insecurely. Like, well, the only reason why I prepare so hard is because I'm afraid to fail. And it's like, cool, got it. The thing is, it feels overly forced. It feels like their whole game plan is to just talk about and to make the audience feel them on a personal level that we're not always there for. Like, I think there's there's time spikes where that's great. When it comes up naturally and it's not like your whole personality. When your vulnerability becomes your whole personality, especially if you're going to do like entertainment and stuff, I see more and more, and it's kind of that weird, like, big movie stars today compared to back in the day. Less was more. The less you knew about their personal life, the better. It actually brought more intrigue. Now, the danger is, in order to reach a certain status, you have to be, we want everyone to be honest and be like a version of themselves that's real, because that's what we seek is realness, even though we may say that, but really we don't want quote unquote people that we look up to. That could be your own parents in your life. You don't want people that you look up to in your life. You don't really want to see those weaknesses. As fucked up as it sounds, like you don't want, I'm not saying me, but as much as we say we want like our parents and us and our friends and mentors and teachers and stuff like that, to be honest, they always got to keep a guard of, hey, like, there's a protection within us. You can't see me in a certain way. And that's how it used to be with movie stars. We used to not know a whole lot about everybody. And it's like this, like Brad Pitts and the Tom Cruises and stuff, they still keep the aspect of their life, Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, yeah, people take pictures of their life and stuff, but we still separate. They make an emphasis to, you're only going to know me you're only going to see me when I have something to promote. I'm not doing a bunch of podcast interviews. I'm not doing a bunch of anything that opens myself up to unnecessary scrutiny. I'm not sharing my whole insecurities, because y'all look at me like Tom Cruise. One thing I respect about someone like Tom Cruise is he makes, when you go see a film, you are there to be entertained. When he's making a movie and he's heavily involved, he's thinking of the audience first and foremost. Nowadays, and I'm going to tie it back to when we listen to artists and actors and comedians, it used to be about what serves the audience, and now everything is about what serves me. There's a selfishness. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. We want to get to know people on a more personable level. But there comes a sacrifice where I have a hard time of looking at certain people's material in the comedy world when they're so open about the insecurities, and then they try to go on stage and play so hard and they have this brashness about them. It's like, you've already opened up the floodgates of your obsession with your own insecurities. It kind of kills, this persona you've made. The whole point of having a persona is people believe it, but when you literally have the on and off switch, it kind of kills that. And that's kind of been this, you know, we can apply it to everyday life with people, you know, like, I think people, we've created this, we want everyone to feel apart and unified. And you should, in the right environment. But we also make it to where it becomes strangers' responsibilities, and we think that everyone wants to hear about everything that makes us who we are, even the unsexy parts. Like, go get a wife, go get a husband, go get a friend, and even though I'm not really for therapy, I would rather you go see a therapist. I'd rather you keep that between the therapy aspect than to make it to where everything about everything, just because you talk about it, doesn't make it have more meaning. Doesn't make you more relatable. If anything, you kind of come off as somebody who you think that your self-problems are so obsessive that you think that's all the audience wants to hear. It's like, I just want to hear an entertaining podcast that it may have elements and sprinkles of that. I like hearing real vulnerable parts from people. But when everything ties back to your anxiety, ties back to your insecurity, ties back to everything, and that's not really what the podcast is mainly supposed to be about, it's like, all right, I get it. And I don't want to sound like a hater because I'm not, but I was listening to it. I was really like, and I hate being that guy because it sounds like insensitive, but I was really like, all right, we fucking get it, you know? And it's okay. Like, I want to keep reemphasizing, it's okay to have these insecurities and stuff. But I think we need to bring back a little bit of, hey, like, we are here to serve an audience. I'm here to entertain. I'm here. There's certain avenues where this is a certain way. But, you know, we all know these people in our lives, and I think more and more in dating especially, people feel entitled to your vulnerability, weirdly enough. Like, if you're not, like, from the get-go just, like, spilling up everything. And then you got the complete opposite where people trauma dump on you. There's simply there's no balance of, like, slowly integrating personal vulnerabilities about yourself when you feel comfortable, when the situation presents itself naturally. It's almost like if you don't tell me about your upbringing and why you have some type of authority issues because your mom did this and your stepdad did all this shit, then it must be, you know what, you just don't trust me and I can't be with someone like that. Or the guy that thinks, or then you have to hear people just dump their problems on you and it's just like, hey, we haven't even gone out for popsicles yet, all right? It's like, hey, we need to have this self-censoring and policing at times. And these things need to be invited. Now, that was a safe space for her to do that, but it's not the only time she does. She does this in all different types of mediums. And I'm just using her as a reference. This isn't attacking her, right? But I'm using it as a reference to something I think bigger. Is vulnerability in general, being honest and open about every little thing of what makes you you. The only thing, once you start spilling it all to everybody, it kind of takes that personal element to you. And the one thing that you had close contact, a close connection, a very personal attachment to, now it's gone. And now, when you let other people attach to your vulnerabilities and your insecurities, you are now kind of at mercy with how the world treats you and how merciless they could be on it. And that's the thing we got to be careful about, especially if you do social media. In general, especially the bigger you get, the more you have to lose, the less open and vulnerable you should be about yourself. Unless it's just something unless you actually have a really okay relationship with the fact that you can share something and it not affect the pushback. Like, you're going to keep living your life, you believe in what you believe. Typically what it exposes is, when people expose it to the world, they really find out how comfortable they are with themselves. Like, I can share a video on here People will disagree. People will say I'm an idiot and all that stuff. And, you know, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. That's okay. You put something out into the world, people will have their opinions. You can't be the vulnerable person to put stuff out into the world and then complain when people actually have a thought or reaction to what you put out into the world. That's just not how it works. That's entitlement, and that's narcissism to the highest degree. Once you put stuff out there, you're not protected of anything. So that's why you got to be very careful if you are someone that shares a lot and you want to be open about a lot about yourself. Just be okay with what comes with the territory. But for the love of God, in your everyday life, don't just assume that you're entitled to drop all your problems, insecurities, vulnerabilities on everybody. Because then when people don't give you the response you want, people start feeling entitled to how people respond to stuff. Part of the thing you got to be okay with if you're going to be obnoxiously vulnerable with people is that not everyone really cares to respond in the way you want or even really participate. They may just be nice and be like, oh, you know, I'm sorry to hear that. Not everyone's going to sit down with the stranger for 20 minutes out of their day and just listen to what somebody has to say. It doesn't make that person a bad person. It just means, like, I don't think I'm the person you should really be spilling this to, you know? And I credit people that do this. I credit people that can be, but you also gotta, I know you could tie everything back to something. But also, like, ironically, like, when I hear people try to attach everything to an origin, to a insecurity, to a childhood, to a traumatic event, and every little life event, like, you become so obsessed with yourself and why you do what you do that you end up just making everything about this one thing, when the more you live life, you realize it's just about what's there and how you react in the moment. It's okay to be open and stuff with a partner, to be open with an audience that you're comfortable sharing that with. But just know, whether you realize it or not, you do got to understand how you're perceived. Like, as much as we say vulnerability is strength, when your whole spill about everything becomes about everything that you don't feel great about yourself, or that you feel has been wrong to you, or how you feel kind of messed up with how this and that turned out in life, it kind of, like, when I look, and when a lot of people look from afar, I think what people think they're doing is they're connecting with the audience, saying the thing out loud that a lot of people are struggling in today's world. But what you're also discounting is the fact that people just look at you as somebody who's so obsessed with their own problems that they think that you are going to be the source that fixes and makes someone feel something. Sometimes less is more. I'm a believer, and it's not popular to say, but the more you obsess over your problems, the more it just continuously stays your problem. And it doesn't matter if you have success on a monetary scale, financially, or anything. Those things will always just be in you, and it always holds you back, and people can feel that. So, just relax. Share it in the right spaces. Share it with volunteers, and don't make everything about everything. So yeah.